My ex-wife took me to court for stalking her across 3 states. Here's what really happened. The subpoena arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server who looked almost apologetic as he handed me the manila envelope. Claire Hartman vs. David Hartman. Petition for restraining order and harassment charges. My ex-wife was accusing me of stalking her across 3 states, claiming I'd been following her, showing up at her workplace, and harassing her new boyfriend. The court date was set for exactly 2 weeks from that moment. I stood in my doorway, reading the document 3 times, my hands completely steady. Because here's the thing about being accused of something you didn't do: the initial shock gives way very quickly to a cold, crystallizing clarity. And I had that clarity in spades. We'd been divorced for 18 months. The marriage had lasted 7 years, ending when I discovered Claire had been having an affair with her personal trainer, Marcus, for the better part of 2 years. I'd filed for divorce, we'd split our minimal assets, and I'd moved from Portland to Denver to start fresh. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, kept to myself, dated occasionally, and had absolutely zero interest in what Claire was doing with her life. But according to this legal document, I'd been photographed in Seattle, San Francisco, and Portland over the past 6 months, always within a block of wherever Claire happened to be. There were timestamps, descriptions of my clothing, witness statements from her friends claiming I'd made threatening social media posts. I called my lawyer immediately. Act 1, the setup. David, this is serious, Michael Chen said, spreading the evidence photos across his conference table 48 hours later. These are definitely you in these pictures. I looked at the images. There I was, outside a coffee shop in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, wearing my brown leather jacket. There I was again, walking past a boutique in San Francisco's Mission District, checking my phone. And there, most damningly, was a photo of me sitting at an outdoor restaurant in Portland's Pearl District, less than a block from Claire's new apartment. These are real, I confirmed. But let me tell you why I was in each location. I pulled out my laptop and opened my carefully organized files. Seattle, February 14th. I was meeting with a client, Cascade Marketing Group. Here's the contract, signed 3 weeks prior. The coffee shop in the photo, 2 blocks from their office. I stopped there before our 2 p.m. meeting. I showed him the calendar invite, the email thread, the receipt from the coffee shop time-stamped at 1:47 p.m. San Francisco, April 3rd. I was attending the Pacific Design Conference, a 3-day event I register for every year. Here's my conference badge, hotel reservation at the Marriott Marquis, and my presentation schedule. I was a speaker, Michael. 200 people watched me give a talk on emerging trends in brand identity. I pulled up the conference website showing my name and photo in the speaker lineup. Portland, May 18th. I was having lunch with my mother for her 65th birthday. She lives in Beaverton. The restaurant, Andina, was her choice. She'd been wanting to try it for months. Here's the reservation confirmation in her name, the credit card receipt showing I paid, and about 30 photos from her phone of us at that lunch. Michael studied each piece of documentation. This is good, David, really good, but we have another problem. He pulled up a laptop and showed me a social media account I'd never seen before. A Facebook profile with my name, my photo, and posts dating back 6 months. The posts were disturbing. Comments about Claire's new haircut. She cut her hair, trying to pretend she's someone new. You can't run from what you are. Photos of Portland landmarks near her apartment. Beautiful neighborhood. So many memories here. A check-in at a gym in Seattle. Getting back in shape. Some people will notice. That's not me, I said immediately. I don't even have Facebook. I deleted my account 3 years ago. I believe you, Michael said, but proving it will be harder. The account uses your name, your photos, and Claire's lawyer will argue you created it specifically to harass her. I leaned back, my mind racing. Someone had created a fake social media account in my name. Someone had been tracking Claire's movements and tracking my business travel. Someone had been photographing me in cities I legitimately had reasons to visit, then spinning those legitimate visits into evidence of stalking. This wasn't random. This was calculated. Michael, I need you to request a continuance. Tell the court I need more time to gather evidence. 4 weeks minimum. David, that's going to look bad, like you're trying to delay. Trust me, I said, I'm going to need every single day. That night, I created a spreadsheet, 3 columns, date, location, reason for visit. I went through my calendar, credit card statements, and email archives for the past year, documenting every single trip I'd taken outside of Denver. 19 trips total, Business meetings, conferences, family visits, 2 weekend trips with friends. Then I pulled up the evidence photos from Claire's filing again. The dates matched my legitimate travel exactly every single time. Someone had access to my travel schedule. I'd been using the same travel booking service for years, TripEase, an online platform that managed flights, hotels, and rental cars. I logged in and checked my account security settings. Last login 2 days ago from an IP address in Portland. My current IP address was Denver-based. Someone had my login credentials and had been monitoring my bookings. I immediately changed my password, enabled two-factor authentication, and downloaded a complete archive of my account activity. The Portland IP address had been accessing my account regularly for 8 months, always viewing my upcoming trips, never making any changes that would alert me. 8 months ago, that was 1 month before the first photograph allegedly showing me stalking Claire. I grabbed my phone and called the one person I knew would understand the technical side of this. James Wu had been my college roommate and now worked in cybersecurity in San Francisco. "Someone's been tracking you?" James asked after I explained the situation. "Forward me that account activity log. I'll see what I can find out about the IP address." While James worked his magic, I focused on the Facebook account. I reported it as impersonation, providing my driver's license as proof of identity. Facebook's response came within 24 hours. The account had been taken down for violating their terms of service, but they couldn't provide information about who created it without a subpoena. Michael filed for the subpoena immediately. It would take weeks, but we'd eventually know who was behind the fake profile. 3 days later, James called back. "Got some interesting information for you. That Portland IP address? It's residential, registered to a Marcus Delaney on Northwest Thurman Street." Marcus, Claire's boyfriend, the personal trainer she'd left me for. "Can you confirm he's the one who accessed my account?" I asked. "Not definitively, without more forensic work. But the access patterns are consistent with manual logins, someone sitting at a computer, not a bot. And get this, I did some additional digging. The fake Facebook account? It was created from that same IP address, same with about 70% of the posts. The other 30% came from a mobile device on a cellular network, but I can trace the general location, all Portland area." My hands tightened around the phone. "Marcus has been framing me." "Looks that way. But David, here's what I don't get. Why? What does he gain from making Claire think you're stalking her?" That was the question that kept me up that night. Marcus had won. He'd gotten the girl. I'd moved away. I had no interest in interfering in their relationship. Why go through this elaborate scheme? Unless Claire wasn't the target, unless I was. I started researching Marcus Delaney. Social media showed the expected personal trainer content, workout videos, client testimonials, inspirational quotes, but I dug deeper, using public records databases and professional background check services. Marcus Delaney had been sued twice in California for breach of contract with previous employers. He'd been fired from 2 different gyms for inappropriate relationships with clients. There was a restraining order filed against him by an ex-girlfriend 3 years ago, though it had been dropped. And then I found the real story, buried in a news article from a Sacramento newspaper. Marcus Delaney had been arrested 6 years ago for credit card fraud and identity theft. The charges were eventually reduced to a misdemeanor. But the pattern was clear. Marcus was a con artist, and somehow I'd become his latest target. But I still didn't understand why, until I found Claire's Instagram account and started scrolling back through her posts. 6 weeks ago, she'd posted a photo of a stunning engagement ring. The caption, "He asked, I said yes. Can't wait to spend forever with you, Marcus." They were engaged. And if I knew anything about Marcus's background, he was looking for a payday. I pulled up the divorce settlement again, reviewing the asset division. Claire had received the house, which I'd paid off during our marriage, valued at $485,000. She'd received her car, her personal accounts, and half of our savings, totaling another $75,000. I'd walked away with my business equipment, my retirement accounts, and my pride. But what if Marcus thought there was more? What if Claire had told him I had hidden assets, a trust fund, some undisclosed wealth? What if the stalking accusation was meant to drain my resources, force me into a defensive position, make me look unstable? Or what if it was even simpler? Claire wanted something from me, and Marcus was helping her fabricate grounds to take me back to court? I called my mother. "Mom, this is going to sound strange, but has Claire contacted you recently?" "Claire, no, honey. Why would she wait? Actually, yes. She called about 3 months ago, said she was trying to locate some documents from your marriage, something about tax returns. I told her she should contact you directly, and she said she'd tried, but you weren't responding. I didn't think much of it. What kind of documents? She was asking about whether you'd ever had a trust or inheritance in your name, from your father's side of the family. My father's side of the family. The family I barely knew, since Dad had passed away when I was 8. Why would she ask about that? I have no idea, David. I told her if your father had left anything, it would have come to me, and there was nothing. We struggled financially for years after he died. She knows that. After we hung up, I sat in silence. Claire was fishing for money that didn't exist, and Marcus was helping her create legal grounds to make my life hell until, what? Until I paid her off? Until she could claim I owed her something? I needed to flip the script, but I needed evidence of what they were really doing. That's when I called Detective Patricia Alvarez. Detective Alvarez worked in the Portland Police Department's fraud division. I'd found her name in one of the articles about Marcus's previous arrest. I took a chance and called the main number, asking to speak with her about an ongoing fraud case. Mr. Hartman, she said when we finally connected by phone, I remember Marcus Delaney. What's he done now? I explained everything. The fake stalking allegations, the compromised travel account, the fake Facebook profile, Marcus's history, Claire's questions about inheritance money that didn't exist. This sounds like a textbook harassment campaign, Detective Alvarez said, but I'll be honest with you. Unless you can prove Marcus accessed your accounts without permission or prove he created that fake profile, the most I can do is make a note in his file. What if I could prove it? Then we'd have a criminal case. Identity theft, computer fraud, cyber stalking. Oregon takes this stuff seriously, especially with his priors. How do I prove it? You'd need direct evidence linking him to the account compromises. Forensic evidence from his devices would be ideal, but you're not getting that without a warrant, and we're not getting a warrant without probable cause beyond circumstantial connections. I thought for a moment, what if he confessed? Then we'd have a case. You got a confession handy? Not yet, but I'm working on it. The plan came together over the next week. I coordinated with James, who agreed to help with the technical elements. I coordinated with Michael, who agreed this was risky but potentially case-ending. And I coordinated with a private investigator named Sarah Cho, who specialized in catfishing operations. Here's what we did. Sarah created a fake identity. Melissa Grant, a successful real estate investor from Seattle with a portfolio of properties and a very visible social media presence showing wealth. She matched with Marcus on a dating app, using a profile carefully designed to appeal to his patterns. Ambitious, recently divorced, looking for someone real after being burned by her ex-husband. They talked for 3 days. Marcus predictably took the bait. He presented himself as a successful entrepreneur, lies, mentioned he was dealing with a crazy ex-boyfriend of his fiancée who was stalking them, half lies, and said he was looking to expand his business once his fiancée's legal issues were resolved. Ah, there it was. What kind of legal issues? Melissa asked via text. Her psycho ex-husband. Guy won't leave her alone. We're taking him to court, getting a restraining order, the whole thing. Once that's done, she's got a house we can leverage for my business expansion. That sounds stressful. Is he actually dangerous? Nah, he's just a loser, but we need the restraining order on record for when we take him back to court for the real money. Real money? Marcus's next message was the golden ticket. Long story. Her ex was holding out on assets during the divorce. We found out he's got a trust fund from his dad's side worth at least $2 million. He hid it, but we're building a case to prove fraud. The stalking thing helps establish he's unstable, makes a judge more likely to side with her in the asset case. Melissa's played perfectly by Sarah. Wow, that's actually brilliant. Yeah, I've done this kind of thing before. People think they can hide money in divorces, but there are ways to make them pay, literally. Followed by a laughing emoji. Sarah screenshotted everything, documenting the entire conversation, but we needed more. So how do you prove he's stalking if he's not actually stalking, Melissa asked. That's the beautiful part. Guy's a freelancer, travels all the time for work. I just track his bookings, make sure we're in the same cities at the same time, take some photos, created a fake Facebook page to make it look like he's obsessed. Court-appointed therapists, eat that shit up. You're smarter than you look. How did you track his bookings? His ex gave me his login to some travel site. Stupid bastard never changed his password after the divorce. And there it was, confession to unauthorized access, conspiracy to commit fraud, and admission that the entire stalking case was fabricated. Sarah kept the conversation going for 2 more days, extracting more details, more admissions. Marcus even bragged about his previous successes with similar schemes. It was almost too easy. On day 6, Sarah said she wanted to meet in person. Marcus suggested a bar in Portland. Sarah counteroffered Seattle, where she was closing a property deal. Marcus agreed, clearly envisioning himself charming a wealthy woman while his fiancée had no idea. I didn't go to Seattle, but Detective Alvarez did, after I sent her every screenshot, every piece of evidence, every documented step of Marcus's fraud. She brought a colleague from the Seattle Police Department's fraud unit. When Marcus met Melissa Grant at the hotel bar, she was wearing a wire. Within 20 minutes, he'd repeated his confessions, added new details about how he'd learned to run these schemes in California, and mentioned he was planning to retire after this one pays out. Detective Alvarez and her colleague arrested him on the spot. Computer fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and about 6 other charges that would keep him busy for a very long time. The restraining order hearing was 10 days after Marcus's arrest. Claire showed up with a different lawyer. Marcus's arrest had apparently caused her previous attorney to withdraw from the case due to conflicts of interest. Translation: that lawyer wanted nothing to do with a case built on fabricated evidence. Claire looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, none of the confident glow she'd had in her engagement photos. She avoided looking at me as we took our seats on opposite sides of the courtroom. Judge Catherine Morrison reviewed the case file with the expression of someone who'd seen too many ridiculous cases and had very little patience left. "Ms. Hartman," the judge said, using Claire's maiden name since she'd changed it back after the divorce, "your petition alleges that Mr. Hartman has been stalking you across 3 states over a period of 6 months. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," Claire said, her voice shaky. "And Mr. Hartman, you dispute these allegations?" "Completely, Your Honor," I said calmly. "I have documentation proving that every instance of alleged stalking was actually a legitimate business trip or family obligation. I was never in any of those cities because of my ex-wife. I didn't even know she would be there." "Your Honor," Claire's lawyer interjected, "we have photographic evidence." "I've seen the photographic evidence," Judge Morrison interrupted. "What concerns me is that I've also seen evidence provided by Mr. Hartman's counsel regarding the recent arrest of Marcus Delaney on charges of fraud and identity theft. Mr. Delaney is engaged to Ms. Hartman, is he not?" Claire's face went white. "Yes, but I didn't know..." "Didn't know that your fiancé was fabricating evidence of stalking? Didn't know that he illegally accessed Mr. Hartman's travel accounts? Didn't know that he created a fake social media profile in Mr. Hartman's name?" The judge's voice was sharp. "Or didn't know that you'd be caught?" "Your Honor, my client was also a victim," the lawyer tried. "I'm not interested in arguments right now," Judge Morrison said. "I'm interested in facts. Mr. Chen, please present your evidence." Michael stood and methodically walked the judge through everything. My travel receipts, client contracts, conference registrations, family photos, the forensic evidence from my TripEase account showing unauthorized access from Marcus's IP address, the chat logs between Marcus and Melissa Grant, where he confessed to the entire scheme, the fake Facebook account's creation data traced to Marcus's home IP address. Then Michael presented the piece of evidence I'd been most proud of, a certified letter from the estate attorney who'd handled my father's affairs 28 years ago, confirming that my father had died with $13,000 in debts and no hidden trust funds, no secret inheritances, nothing. There was no real money for Claire and Marcus to go after because it had never existed. So this entire case, Judge Morrison said slowly, was fabricated by Ms. Hartman's fiancé as part of a scheme to falsely accuse Mr. Hartman of stalking, establish him as unstable, and create grounds to take him back to family court on false claims of hidden assets? "That appears to be the case, Your Honor," Michael said. The judge turned to Claire. "Ms. Hartman, did you know about any of this?" Claire was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Marcus said David had been following us. He showed me the photos. He said David was still obsessed with me, that I needed to protect myself. I believed him." "Did you know he was accessing Mr. Hartman's travel accounts?" Silence. "Ms. Hartman, I asked you a question." I gave Marcus David's login information, Claire admitted. From when we were married, David never changed it. Marcus said he just wanted to know if David was planning to be in the same cities as us so we could avoid him. I didn't know he was using it to frame David. You gave your fiancé unauthorized access to your ex-husband's private accounts. And you expect this court to believe you had no idea what he was doing with that access? I didn't think. No, you didn't think. And now Mr. Hartman has spent thousands of dollars defending himself against false allegations, has had his name dragged through the mud on fabricated social media posts, and has been accused of being a dangerous stalker when he was simply living his life and conducting legitimate business. The judge's voice could have frozen water. Ms. Hartman, I'm dismissing your petition with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm ordering you to pay Mr. Hartman's legal fees in full. The court will also be forwarding the record of these proceedings to the district attorney's office for review, as I believe there's a strong case for charges against you for conspiracy to commit fraud and filing a false police report. Your Honor, please, Claire's lawyer started. We're done here. This case is dismissed. 2 weeks later, Michael called with news I'd been expecting. The DA is moving forward with charges against Claire, conspiracy to commit fraud, filing false police reports, and abuse of court process. With Marcus's testimony, he's cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence. They have a strong case. What's she looking at? Best case scenario, if she pleads guilty, probably probation, restitution, and a felony conviction on her record. Worst case, if she fights it and loses, she could do 2 to 3 years. And Marcus? With his priors and the severity of the charges, even with cooperation, he's looking at 4 to 6 years federal time. The U.S. Attorney's Office picked up the case because he used the internet to commit fraud across state lines. That makes it federal. Justice felt cold and clinical. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. But there was one more piece of business to handle. I filed a civil lawsuit against both Claire and Marcus for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. The lawsuit was straightforward. Their actions had damaged my reputation, caused me significant emotional distress, and violated my privacy rights by accessing my accounts without authorization. Claire's lawyer tried to negotiate a settlement. I refused. This was going to trial. 6 months later, we sat in civil court. Claire looked even worse than she had at the restraining order hearing. She'd pleaded guilty to the criminal charges and received 2 years probation plus $25,000 in restitution for my legal fees. She'd lost her job at the marketing firm where she'd worked for 5 years. Turned out having a felony conviction for fraud made employers nervous. Marcus was in federal prison, their engagement had imploded, and she'd had to sell the house to pay for her lawyer. The civil trial took 3 days. My lawyer presented all the same evidence from the criminal case, plus documentation of the impact on my business. 3 clients had terminated contracts after discovering the stalking allegations. They'd Googled my name and found news articles about the case before it was dismissed. I'd had to send explanation emails to a dozen business contacts. I'd suffered panic attacks, developed insomnia, and required therapy to deal with the violation of having my identity stolen and my life turned into a weapon against me. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found in my favor on all counts and awarded me $175,000 in damages. Claire didn't have $25,000. She didn't have $17,500. She was working as a waitress, living in a studio apartment, trying to rebuild a life that she'd destroyed with greed and bad judgment. I filed the paperwork to garnish her wages. I'd collect my judgment over time, even if it took years. It's December now, and I'm sitting in my new office in downtown Denver. Not a home office anymore. I'd expanded my freelance design business into a small agency, hiring 2 junior designers and a project manager. We were thriving. My phone buzzed with an email notification, a message from Claire, her first contact since the civil trial concluded. David, I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I wanted you to know that I'm in therapy now, dealing with a lot of things I should have dealt with years ago. The therapist helped me understand that I was always looking for someone else to solve my problems, to make me feel valuable. With you, I took that for granted. With Marcus, I let him convince me that we deserved more than we'd earned. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to stop the wage garnishment. I deserve every consequence I'm facing. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I did, and I'm genuinely sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I hurt someone who never deserved to be hurt. You were always the good one in our marriage. I hope your life is everything you wanted it to be." I read the email 3 times. There was a part of me that wanted to respond, wanted to acknowledge her growth, wanted to offer some form of closure, but there was a larger part of me that recognized this wasn't my responsibility anymore. Claire's journey to becoming a better person wasn't something I needed to participate in or validate. She'd made her choices, she'd face her consequences, and I had my own life to live. I deleted the email and turned back to my work. That night, I met Detective Alvarez for coffee. She'd stayed in touch after the case closed, and we'd developed an unexpected friendship. "How are you doing?" she asked, studying my face like she was still investigating something. "Honestly, I'm good, really good. The business is growing. I've been dating someone new for about 3 months, and I'm sleeping through the night again, sir." No residual anger about Claire and Marcus? "I think about it sometimes," I admitted. "But mostly I feel grateful. Grateful that I found out the truth. Grateful for people like James and Sarah and Michael and you who helped me fight back. Grateful that the system actually worked for once." "That's a healthy perspective. I learned something through all this," I said. "When someone tries to destroy you, the best revenge isn't destroying them back. It's refusing to let them define your story. Marcus tried to make me the villain in some fictional drama where he and Claire were victims of my obsession, but the truth came out, and now I get to write my own story, and they're just footnotes in a chapter I've already closed." Patricia smiled. "That's very evolved of you. I have a good therapist." We talked for another hour about her work, about my business, about life in general. When I walked back to my car, snow was just starting to fall, delicate flakes catching the streetlight glow. My phone buzzed again. Not Claire this time, but Jessica, the woman I'd been dating, a high school teacher with a laugh that made everything feel lighter. "Dinner at my place tomorrow? I'm making lasagna. Fair warning, I'm Italian and my grandmother's recipe is basically a religious experience." I smiled and texted back, "I'll bring wine. Can't wait." As I drove home through the quiet Denver streets, I thought about the journey from that Tuesday morning when the subpoena arrived to this peaceful December evening. I thought about how easy it would have been to let anger consume me, to become bitter and paranoid, to let Claire and Marcus poison my future the way they'd tried to poison my present. But I'd chosen differently. I'd chosen to fight with truth instead of rage. I'd chosen to trust the system while also building an ironclad case. I'd chosen to protect myself without becoming cruel. And now on the other side of that nightmare, I was free, truly free. Not just free of Claire and Marcus, but free of the need for revenge beyond justice. Free of the weight of victimhood. Free to build something new. The best revenge, I'd learned, wasn't making them suffer. It was refusing to suffer yourself. It was taking their attempt to ruin you and using it as fertilizer for growth. It was showing up in court with documentation and evidence and calm professionalism, then walking away to build a life so good they'd eventually realize what they'd lost. Marcus was in prison, facing years of consequences for his choices. Claire was rebuilding from rubble, working minimum wage jobs and living with the permanent mark of a felony conviction. And me, I was making lasagna plans with a woman who made me laugh, running a business that fulfilled me creatively, and sleeping soundly at night with no need to look over my shoulder. Some people will always try to tear you down to make themselves feel taller. The real power isn't in tearing them down in return. It's in standing so firmly in your truth that their lies collapse under the weight of reality while you remain standing, stronger, wiser, and fundamentally unchanged by their attempts to break you. I'd been accused of stalking, dragged into court, had my name falsely associated with harassment and instability. But the truth had won, justice had prevailed, and I discovered reserves of strength and patience I hadn't known I possessed. That Tuesday morning when the subpoena arrived felt like a lifetime ago. The person who'd opened that envelope had been scared, confused, uncertain of how to defend himself against lies that looked convincingly like truth. The person driving home through the snow was none of those things. I was certain. I was at peace, and I was free. And that, in the end, was the only revenge that really mattered. My ex-wife and her fiancé falsely accused me of stalking them across 3 states as part of an elaborate fraud scheme to make me look unstable so they could take me back to court for money I didn't have. I documented everything, worked with police and a PI, proved the whole thing was fabricated, and watched both of them face criminal charges while I collected a 6-figure judgment and built a thriving business. The best revenge is living well and letting the truth do the heavy lifting.